This was
Dr. Martzloff, the highlight of the night, would you like to introduce us to our capital project presentation, please?
Thank you again, Mr. LeMay. I'd like to share information with the board on our potential capital project with a large emphasis on putting a spotlight on our music program, particularly at the middle schools and high schools. And this has been an ongoing conversation for at least 2+ years across the district, and it has been a true collaborative effort. And I'd like to really start off the presentation by saying thank you to the Board of Education for your support along the way as we've discussed this potential project, but also say thank you to Mr. Matursky, Dr. Balin, Mr. Russo, our school principals, our music teachers, people across the district that have had input into coming up with this plan that you're going to see this evening. So with that being said, we have a number of art and music events going on all across the district, and I believe I sent this to the board in a PDF format late in the summer or early in the fall, so that you could see all the wonderful events we have going on across our school district that have a music or art focus. And it's just terrific to see the involvement of our students and really, quite frankly, our entire community in all of these efforts that go on at all of our 13 schools. In doing so, it's important to realize that we needed to come up with a plan to address some of our music space. And we've had at least 30 meetings held with school personnel over the last 1 to 2 years in developing this plan. And I'm not going to read this slide to you, but the idea here is we've had a tremendous amount of input, and we've had to sort through that input, because while everyone might like to have the very best music space we can and the very largest music space we can, we also have to be sensible and make it fit into our budget parameters as a school district, so that we aren't making a project that is just more than what we need. So we had music space input team members from across the district. These are on the left, the 3 high school teams, and on the right are our middle school teams, all of which included the principals at each school, along with a couple of music teachers. Those music teachers went back and spoke to another team of folks who collaborated to talk about and discuss what the priority items were for each particular school during that process. We also had a district music input team that included Dr. Balin, Mr. Matursky, Mr. Russo, who's our fine and performing arts and business education and FACS instructional specialist, and also Mr. Keith Langlotz, our director of facilities, who certainly always plays a large role when we discuss capital project improvements. And then, of course, our professional partners from Cadeni Architects, acoustical consultant, and Campus Construction, which is our project manager that works with us when we do this sort of work. So what are we looking to do? What's the overview of the project? First of all, at the high school, we want to make major renovations to the existing space for music. That would also include school additions, which I'll talk more about in a moment, update the existing music space, add acoustical renovations in the classrooms, and make improvements to our auditoriums. That's going to be critical at all of our high schools. In the middle school, it's more of a minor renovation. There'll be some limited construction in classrooms, certainly acoustical and auditorium improvements, but the main thrust will take place at the high school level. Some other facility improvement work included in this project is roof replacement at Transit Middle and Maple West Elementary schools. Certainly we do this on a rotational basis across the district to make sure that our roofs are up to date and hopefully impervious to the elements. We're going to need to replace an emergency generator at South High School, along with replacing the South High School gym bleachers, which are aged and are becoming closer and closer to becoming a safety issue. We need to replace the pool dehumidification unit at East High School. And so these are some other parts to the project that aren't directly related to music, but certainly important to the foundation of education here in Williamsville. So our current music space, these pictures give you a little bit of an idea of what we're running into. The North High School chorus students are on risers, but as you can see, someone who is a tall individual hitting your head on lights is not something that's enjoyable when you're trying to focus on, in this case, singing. East High School Orchestra only performs on the stage because they don't have enough classroom space. And then music and instrument-related equipment is stored on the stage at South High School, again, because of a lack of space. What are our auditoriums like? This kind of gives you an idea of our auditorium space and how crowded the stages have become and how cramped they are for all of the students using our facilities at the high schools. So what's happened to cause this? It's been an increase in student participation. We've had over 50% of students in grades 3 through 12 are involved in music programming, music ensembles across the district. We have an orchestra program that's, let me just say, over 50% of our students in grades 3 through 12 are involved in school-based music ensembles. I didn't get a round of applause the second time, but that's it. So, like late night comedy, they have the signs that flash for certain applause or cheering. Our orchestra program has grown from a single district-wide orchestra to 2 orchestras at each high school. That's pretty impressive. We had a high school orchestras added in 1972, then expanded in 2003 and 2007, and nearly 7 teaching positions have been added over the past 15 years with no concurrent change to the space for music classrooms. So our curricular offerings in the following ensembles has grown by 45% over a 15-year period. So if you look at everything that goes on in the middle school with band, chorus, and orchestra, and also at high school where we also have things like wind ensemble, mixed chorus, women's chorus, symphonic, and philharmonic, so on and so forth, in terms of allowing our students to really reach a high level in the realm of music. And we continue to meet the needs in changing with state and national K-12 art standards and changing technologies. Just like every other aspect of our students' days in school, technology is changing in the area of music as well. So looking first at Williamsville East High School, the light blue on the left is the current auditorium. The other sort of blue color in the middle is the current space that would be renovated and reconfigured. And then the violet purple area would be all new construction, which would allow for new classrooms for music space at East High School in the amount of 8,516 square feet. If you look at North High School, it would again renovate the existing music space in the auditorium, some heavy renovation of some other music space sort of in the middle of this picture. And then at the top, the light purple or violet color would be new music space, and that would be coming to the east, which is towards district office from North High School. At South High School, again, we'd be renovating the auditorium and the existing music space and adding the purple violet color on the left would be moving to the west towards the parking lot. It would not change the current parking lot. A lot of it would encapsulate what is current music space there and reconfigure that in a way that provides additional 11,000 square feet of music space at South High School. So how does this space impact each of our 3 schools? I think I heard it mentioned earlier that the space would be going up by at least 50%. It would be going up by actually more than double its current size, almost triple at North High School in terms of the amount of space for music education. So certainly, if our goal is to increase the space at our 3 high schools, this slide, these graphs point to that pretty accurately. So at this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Matursky to share some information about the finances for the project. Mr. Matursky?
Thank you, Dr. Martzloff. At this time, I'd like to start by reviewing the proposed project cost. You can see here how we have broken down, Dr. Martzloff has all mentioned previously, what the project is about and how it's separated by high school, middle school, and the other items, major items. So here you see that our high school music addition and renovation project budget is approximately $23.8 million. Our middle school budget would be $5.1 million, almost $5.2 million. Transit Middle's roof is $3.2 million. That's the original roof from the building, so it is at the end of its useful life. Emergency generator and the pool dehumidification systems are smaller amounts but still significant, creating a total project cost of $36,659,930. So the important part here is how can we accomplish all this work without increasing the tax levy? And that's done really a few ways. First of all, we're using capital reserve funds, and that's long-range planning. You heard our auditors earlier tonight talk about that we put some additional dollars in our capital reserve at the end of this fiscal year, so that helps us in this process. Budget appropriations, as you'll hear a little bit further into this presentation. But the major reason is, again, long-range planning, but being able to look at what our current debt is, what our debt payoffs are, and then match the new debt that would be coming on for this particular project with the debt that no longer is payable. And all of those funds are currently budgeted in our annual budget. So that makes this not having an impact. So the specific numbers are, in 3 years, we're going to be paying off debt to the tune of $1,449,250. That becomes available. That debt is retired. And when we issue the new debt in 2023, when this project is over, it's projected to be at an amount of $2,527,289. Now you may ask, well, there's a difference there. And that difference is attributed to dollars that we have and will be coming available again in the debt payoff line by the end of this fiscal year. So that's why we will have the full dollar amount to fund this project, and that means there's no tax levy increase because there's no effect on our annual budget. So the funding for this project is from 4 areas. The debt issuance is projected at $22,400,000. We have a capital reserve from 2007. The reason that amount is so low, that would exhaust the dollar amounts in that reserve. That's $17,110. And then from the 2014 reserve, the amount would be $12,682,820. And we would do a capital outlay for 2 fiscal years. Capital outlay is funds coming from our general fund budget, $1,560,000. Those are the same funds I just referred to in the past slide that would become available to debt payoff. So when those dollars are not are still available, we can leverage them. That means that we're not having to borrow that money, we're not adding debt to the future, and we're also saving interest expense from even temporary borrowings. So the other side of the project is, again, extremely important, and that is state building aid. The district, the architects, and our construction manager, we all worked cooperatively with the New York State Education Department, their facility planning department, and we sent them all of our financial information. We had conference calls with them, communicated via email, and we had them provide us with a cost estimate on how this project would be aided. What that came out to is that the total qualifying expenses would represent about 52 to 60% of the total project cost. And then that would be then aided, and the aid comes in at the end of the project, which is what we project here would be 2023. The importance also in long-range planning here is that when looking at what our current aid is from capital projects, we will be losing about $1.6 million in building aid in 2023. That's due to the 2009 projects now being fully paid off. So that makes this project extremely important for the district because those dollars will replace the dollars we're losing. And that will allow us to not have an impact on our annual budget process. So here is the timeline that we have. December 13th is the public vote. So that is, if we obtain approval from the community, we're then going to move forward with the next steps. In the January through June timeline, we will be working with our schools and with our music input teams to review the more detailed plans, to go about really creating the actual construction documents that are needed to be submitted to the State Education Department. We expect that they'll be submitted in June, June 2019. We then will be waiting over a period of time for the state to approve the project. Approval is currently, as far as that looks, February 2020. That's a significant amount of time, but we are going to try and move that up if we can. There's a couple options we've been talking about, but right now that's what the current timeline is given to us by the state. That would allow us to do a bid immediately with a bid award recommendations in April 2020. Construction beginning in June 2020, and our projection is the project would be completed in 2022. So that is our project timeline.
I'd like to share from a recent email I received from a parent from Country Parkway who stated that 20 plus years ago I was a high school student here in Williamsville that stood in front of the school board with a myriad of my colleagues fighting and encouraging our neighbors to pass an austerity budget to keep our music program alive. So to see the plans for the development of our high school music programs gives me great pride and joy. It makes me feel like our family's choice to be in this district and encourage our children is something that is valued and worthy. And that came from Danielle Hartman, who was a Williamsville East High School graduate and currently a parent at Country Parkway. And I think that really speaks volumes to the value we place on a project like this for our students in our district. So we would hope if the board decides to approve our project going forward, that people would come out and vote on Thursday, December 13th from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. at Williamsville North High School and provide us with their vote, yes or no, however it is they feel like they want to vote on this particular project. So at this time, happy to answer any questions or anything at all from any board members.
Mrs. Beer.
So I've been excited about this project since it was first mentioned that this may be coming. When I joined the board, we were in full implementation and towards the end of our capital improvement project around the athletic fields. When I decided to run for the board a couple of years ago, it was because really nothing about music at all. I just wanted to represent all stakeholders and make sure that we were doing the best we could for all children. And I don't normally talk about me because we talk about the community, but I'm going to do like a 30-second thing about me because I was a Williamsville student. And I have very fond memories of Mr. Mitchell at Dodge and being in all-county chorus with Mrs. Powell. And I remember Mrs. Sutherland at Casey Middle School, and I remember walking up that tiny little space in Williamsville East and singing with Miss Riley. And I was not terribly involved in the high school community as a student, But I always felt valued when I went in the chorus room, and I pursued a degree in music education, and that's one of the teaching degrees I have today. And music is an important part of my life and a hobby, and I perform in my own time. This came from the education that I had in Williamsville. It did. So fast forward to now, as a board member, I sat in the opening day ceremony, and there was a really wonderful spirit around making sure all kids are connected. And there was a lot of talk about, especially at high school, making sure that in whatever it is that interests kids, whether it be music or athletics or science or, whatever they thrive in, that kids find that. And I'm lucky to have kids that have found that. I have a high school kid who just had his first jazz band rehearsal this morning. And that kid got up at 6:30 this morning to go to jazz band. I hear you with the start time. That is early. So for a 14-year-old to get up that early, it means something to him. And now I've got a little fourth grader that's playing the tuba, and it's awesome. And it brings them together. It's something, my high schooler sitting with my fourth grader, and they're trying to play music together, and the trombone and the tuba, and I've got this little 4-year-old looking up, and I know he's going to be heading to Hyam Elementary. And I'm sorry for the long narrative about me, but I'm sharing this because this community has done wonderful things around the athletic fields, and I see that community. That's not even just about sports. That's about bringing community together, because you see parents, families at all of these events. And what we're talking about building here is a similar idea around music, because it's not just the kids at the rehearsals. It's families coming and seeing these presentations, whether it's a high school band concert or musical or little ensembles you see along the way. I'm so honored to be sitting on this board tonight and see a presentation like this and know that our community does have an opportunity to implement another capital project of this caliber. That, I had such a wonderful experience in my education, and I think the rooms are probably all exactly the same still. So to know that we want to invest this kind of time and energy into our kids now, I'm excited about it, and I hope that our community feels the excitement around this project. Thank you so much to everyone who's put work into this, and I look forward to our community seeing the value in this as well. Sorry for being so long-winded.
It's okay. Mr. Mecca.
I'm very excited about this project as well, and I'd like to thank Dr. Marsloff and his leadership team for their vision in taking us in this direction. One concern that was expressed to me at Maple West PTA meeting is that the elementaries feel a little bit left out in this process, as it's geared mostly toward the high schools and some middle school enhancements as well. I wonder if there might be any future ability to address those concerns of the elementary school level. But I do want to say I'm very excited about this project, and I don't mean to take away the enthusiasm in the room for that by bringing this up.
I think to address Mr. Mecca's question, the question that came from Maple West, it would be nice to update our music classroom space across the district at all of our elementary schools. There's parts of our elementary schools that need renovation. We've had discussions at some PTA meetings where I've gone to visit about the need for like a district-wide pool, like a natatorium, indoor track, a number of things come up, and we'd like to do it all. But unfortunately, from a budget standpoint, unless we want to ask our community members to increase the taxes they pay, we can't do it all from a budget perspective. So I think, one thing I've shared with parents of elementary students is that by the time this project is complete, their children will be just about entering high school. So they'll get to enjoy the fruits of the labor, so to speak. But we do want to do more of those things. It's a continued challenge. I think, though, if Mr. Matursky and I are still here in 2023, I think our next capital project might be heat and air conditioning replacements at all of our schools. I think that would be a popular one. See, the applause sign didn't even go on, and we got some. But you're right, Mr. Mecca. There isn't much of anything in this project for elementary schools, but it's something we need to look at addressing for the future.
Mr. Borenstein.
I think this is a wow moment for the school district and the community, and I'm very excited. As the newest member of the board, I want to recognize my fellow board members who have made art and music a priority in our school district, and recognizing that it is a core curriculum and should be put into the acronym STEM, and let's start calling it STEAM. You've heard me say that before. Thank you. STEAM being STEM with A for arts in there. Also want to recognize and thank Mr. Matursky, who's set this course in motion financially so we could do this, and of course the leadership of Superintendent Martzloff, who really put this out there for the board to discuss and the community to discuss. He saw the priority of maintaining the high level of our music program here in the district. And finally, for those on the front lines, there are members of the Williamsville Music Boosters here tonight. So thank you for the work that you do as well. It's good to see you here, and this should be a very exciting moment for our school district. Thank you all.
Mrs. Van Cise.
I would just like to say that I am not musically inclined at all. However, I have 2 children that have been involved in music, one that is still actively participating, and I see a very passionate room here now with some staff members and students that are incredible. And so it's not about me, it becomes what's going to make this district even better. And music and art are just as important as anything else in this district. Whether, we talk a lot about health and wellness, we talk a lot about the academics, music and art are so important also. So I think it's great that we're doing this project. One question I do have, Dr. Martzloff, how are we going to, as a district, educate the community and get people to come out on December 18th to vote?
Thank you.
13th, sorry. It was a bad PR move. 13th.
Close enough. I mean, thank you for asking that question, Mrs. Van Cise. Tomorrow we'll be putting together an email to go out to all of our teachers and staff members across the district with links. Mrs. Wolf, our Director of Communications, put together a new web page for our website that focuses on the music project, that has the plans, the PowerPoints, it'll have the videos like of tonight's presentation, all of that information there. Eventually we will be sending WITS mails out to all of our parents to make sure they're aware of what we're doing, and of course we're using social media as well. I've noticed that my visits to PTA meetings, not a lot of parents are using Twitter yet, but hopefully that'll continue to grow and increase so that people will be informed via that route. We'll also be partnering with our folks in the local news media, both at the Amherst Bee and the Buffalo News, to help explain what it is we're looking to do. And I think when, as a district, you can do about a $37 million project with no tax increase to our local taxpayers and greatly increase and enhance the music facilities of our school district and get more state aid that we can use for other purposes, it really is a tremendous win for the district and speaks to many, many decades of long-term planning by school boards and superintendents and administrators before all of us. And so I'm really pleased with the outcome and thankful to all of those that collaborated to make it happen.
Mr. Meyer?
Yeah, I do have one quick question with respect to the timeline and Williamsville South in particular. And correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that Will South, the building itself, is a registered historic building. So in the process of construction or maybe in the design, I'm just assuming that we're going to need very particular approvals And if that is the case, who gives those approvals, and do you foresee it causing any kind of delay in the construction?
I don't foresee it giving us a delay. Mr. Matursky, do you want to mention anything else about the south approval?
Yeah, the district must, actually all of these buildings must submit their applications to the State Historic Preservation Organization, and we will do that with South High. We are aware of it from the very beginning, so I do not really believe there will be any impact on a delay of construction with that timeline, because we'll work with them to make any adjustments that we need.
I think the bigger concern at South, Mr. Meyer, is the potential for rock. You don't have to dig down very far at South High School, and you run into rock, and that could provide an extra expense to the project. But that remains to be seen when we start going forward with the more specific plans for construction.
Thanks.
Welcome.
I have to say that I am beyond ecstatic on this. I've been waiting for this project for years now. I remember my first year as a board member sitting down watching my second daughter, who was a freshman at the time at South High School, and watching the auditorium lights, the stage lights, pop during the middle of the performance. They went out more than one time. And I remember shooting an email off to Dr. Martzloff saying, what can we do? And understanding that it was an antiquated and a very old system, that finding parts has been an incredibly challenge because of the age of the setup in the system. So I am beyond ecstatic that we're here, that we're supporting this. I think everybody on this board is probably equally as happy and supportive of this project, and hopefully the whole community. It's long overdue. I do want to thank all the parents, the staff, the administrators, the teachers, the students, and everybody in the entire history of the Williamsville School District that has gotten us to this point today, because it's the administrators and the teachers and the staffing and everybody that has encouraged the arts and STEAM, to make sure that we get this, and encourage that all of these pieces make for a well-rounded student. So I am beyond excited, and if there's anything we can do to move this project along quicker, we're there to help with that too. On a minor note, I do want to ask if there's a way that we can get this book that we received here, which I'm assuming a good chunk of this is going to be online and stuff. Can we get at least certain sections of this sent to us in color? I asked because I'm looking at this diagram here, and all the diagrams, they're in black and white, and they highlight the differences that's going on, and I can't figure out anything. So that would be very appreciative. But thank you, everybody that's put the time and effort into this to getting us to this point.
Yes, we'll get them to you in color and electronically. And also, I failed to mention, when the question was asked about sort of sharing out what's going on across our district, we provided large poster boards that outline what we're looking to do at each school to each of our schools. So our middle schools will have what's going to happen there, high schools will have their own, and for the elementary schools we're going to have what we're looking to do at each high school, so that people can see that, and then we'll also have some tripods set up here at district office in the welcome area, so that people can see that as well. So a lot to show and advertise, and hopefully in color.
And I failed to reiterate too, again, thank you for, at least for now, putting the conversation on pool closings. It's our middle schools on hold. It's not a factor for this project, so appreciate that. Any other questions from any other board members? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the adoption of the resolution calling a special district meeting for the approval of the bond proposition as presented? Mr. Borenstein, is there a second? Dr. Venator, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Now, we have to encourage everybody to get out and vote December 13th.